For years, Americans were told Minnesota was a model of progressive governance, smart spending, compassionate leadership, competent oversight. Then, the receipts arrived. This week, President Trump's Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, did what Gov. Tim Walz apparently couldn't. She read the numbers, followed the money, and told the truth. And her conclusion was blunt enough to shatter the fairy tale. Minnesota, under Tim Walz, didn't just suffer fraud. It invited it. Oversight optional, fraud guaranteed. You have been Minnesota's governor since 2019, McMahon reminded Walz. A polite way of saying you've had years to fix this, and you didn't. Instead, during Walz's tenure, at least $1 billion in taxpayer funds allegedly vanished through nonprofit schemes like Feeding Our Future, while state officials looked the other way. Or worse, didn't look at all. This wasn't a computer glitch. This wasn't a paperwork error. This was a systemic collapse of oversight so spectacular that fraudsters from around the world allegedly saw Minnesota not as a state, but as an ATM. As President Trump put it, Minnesota became a fraudulent hub of money laundering activity. That's not rhetoric, that's a summary. The ghost students that only Democrats could miss. If the welfare fraud wasn't embarrassing enough, the Department of Education uncovered something even more surreal. Ghost students. Not metaphorical ghosts, not ideological ones. Actual, non-existent, non-verified, often non-US-based students who somehow managed to receive millions in federal grants and loans. According to McMahon's letter, 1834 ghost students linked to Minnesota colleges $12.5 million in taxpayer money shared with schools, pocketed by fraudsters. No classes, no attendance, no accountability. Apparently you don't need to exist to qualify for student aid. You just need to apply in Minnesota. One community college averaged over 100 suspicious applications per year, and nobody in Walz's administration thought to ask why. That's not compassion. That's negligence. Strange how enforcement works when adults are in charge. Now, here's the part. Democrats don't want you to notice. Under President Trump's leadership, the Department of Education stopped more than $1 billion in fraudulent student aid in just 1 year. Same system, same country, different leadership, mandatory ID verification, crackdowns on automated applications, real enforcement. Funny how fraud suddenly becomes harder when the government actually tries to stop it. Ilhan Omar and the progressive definition of fairness. Then came the part of McMahon's letter that made progressives particularly uncomfortable. Representative Ilhan Omar, a champion of student debt forgiveness, reportedly borrowed tens of thousands in student loans, and now argues she shouldn't have to repay them. This from a sitting member of Congress earning $174,000 a year, funded by the same taxpayers she wants to stiff. In other words, debt is immoral, unless she owes it. Accountability is cruel, unless you're paying. McMahon called it what it is, taking advantage of taxpayers. A pattern. Too big to ignore education fraud, welfare fraud, housing aid fraud, food assistance fraud, small business relief fraud, programs for seniors and children with autism compromised. At some point, this stops being bad luck and starts being bad leadership. McMahon didn't mince words, accusing Walz of doing absolutely nothing while fraudsters enriched themselves. And she ended with something Washington rarely hears anymore. A call for resignation. Too little, too late only, after national scrutiny, federal intervention, and a scathing letter did Walz announce a new fraud prevention program and hire a private auditing firm. And then came the classic political line. I take full responsibility. In politics, that usually means, I'm sorry I got caught. Because responsibility doesn't start after $1 billion disappears. It starts with preventing it. Conclusion. This isn't about party, it's about competence. Linda McMahon's letter wasn't partisan theater, it was a diagnosis. Tim Walz didn't just fail to protect taxpayers. He presided over a system that rewarded fraud and punished accountability. Minnesotans deserve better. Americans deserve better. And for once, someone in Washington was willing to say it out loud.